Now, we are going to talk to the only Eurovision winner also to do a Bond theme. Not just that, though.
Pop quiz question.
Yeah, since making her voice heard over 60 years ago with Shout, it's Lulu, of course. She's done loads. TV, film, Glastonbury, you name it. She was even piece of cake on last year's Masked Singer.
Now she's preparing to get back on the road for her last ever tour. Surely not. She will speak to her live in a moment. But
Lulu is here, and Lulu, you're saying there is a whole archive available to us that we can't even...
Well, actually, it's not necessary, because what the BBC did in their wisdom was to erase a lot of stuff from the 60s. Yeah, like a lot of television series I did, you know, they were, but not just me, you know.
Yes.
And somebody just put online the other day, Jimi Hendrix on my TV show, which I had never seen, of course, because it was live in those days. And... yes, so a lot of it's disappeared, but just looking at you see the same old clips and you think, oh, I wonder what happened to that.
But sometimes people find these reels of film or recording. Is there one moment you look back that you'd love to see back again? Is there? Well,
it was Jimi Hendrix.
Wow.
And me talking about it, not really saying much, but you know, because what he did was, it was like Jimi Hendrix on, and here he is in my, you know, in my very English sort of, you know, trying to be polite and BBC. Now we're going to have Jimi Hendrix singing his latest song, or whatever it was, you know, or his most popular song, the one that made him a success here. And he comes on, he does, "Hey Joe," and then in the middle of it he goes, I'm gonna stop this rubbish. Now, in those days at the BBC, darling, one never did that sort of thing, you know. Now, so it was like, wow, and I'm going.
He said rubbish on the BBC.
Thank goodness he said rubbish.
But can you imagine the poor floor manager was about to have a heart attack because you didn't do that sort of thing in the BBC those days. And then the BBC banned him, by the way.
Oh, really?
Which just made him more popular.
Yeah.
Of course.
Mr. Rock and Roll. When you look back at the clips we've just played of yourself back then, at the beginning of your career, what sort of feelings do you have?
I think, oh, look at that little girl. Oh, you know, like you do with a teenage girl who's had to get up and work like a dog, you know, which I did. But I loved every minute of it.
You feel kind of protective of her.
I sort of do. It's like that's another person. I'm, you know, talking in the third person. But, yeah, look at that. I mean, look at that gorgeous hair colour.
It's fabulous. It's fabulous. And, you know, we look at your career now, and I always think of the music, but actually, you did so much television as well. You kind of did everything.
I kind of grew up on the BBC. I grew up on Saturday night television. And I remember when David Bowie, you know, wanted to work with me, and I thought he was just too cool for school. And when I talk about it, I said, and I was on Saturday night television singing and dancing my head off, which really is how I saw myself. But I learned a lot from the BBC.
What did you learn?
I learned the craft of entertaining, of learning things on a spin of a dime. You know, like I did a film last year with Diane Keaton, and because I've been studying acting for 8 years with a great coach, something I'd never done. I really put my whole weight behind it during COVID, which was great. I didn't sit around.
Was that your lockdown project then?
That was one of. I had several. I also did anyway.
No. What else?
What else did I do?
Yeah.
I did Instagram. I interviewed people like. I did Douglas Stewart, who wrote Shuggie Bain. He won the Booker Prize for that. I interviewed him. I interviewed Tim Rice. I interviewed Gary Barlow. I did many interviews on a Monday. I was very busy during COVID.
Thanks for coming in talking to us on a Monday, then, being interviewed.
Well, I like to work. I mean, am I a workaholic? I don't think there's an answer to that. You know it.
Yes, I think we know that. Which brings us to the fact that you're going out on the road again. And I guess it's using those kinds of skills you talked about, those Saturday night BBC skills from the 60s.
You learn your craft by doing things over and over and having to learn 7 songs in a week, you know, dialogue, sketches, you know, just turning up and being on.
And you're using those skills now on tour?
I've used them all my life. And I think, you know, I used to work in a band doing gigs, and I think anyone who wants to start, they say, can you give me an advice? I don't like to give advice, but when asked, get in a band, go do the gigs, learn your craft.
Wow. Go do the gigs. Quite an important phrase, because so you're on tour.
The tour starts in November.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And have you had to add more dates as well?
What happened was I decided I had done a tour about a year ago, and it was really hard work. You know, at my age, I think, do I need to be doing it like this anymore? So I decided I'm going to do it differently. And I had a final tour, this year, and then it sold out and a lot of people couldn't get there. So the promoter said, can we do another? So I'm doing 10 gigs, November, and it was so moving to say this is my final tour because it's my life. It's been my life for 60 years. And the audiences were, incredible, the reaction. They were with me all the way. I had tears every night. So when asked if I would do some others, I said, well, if you space them out and make them sort of leisurely for me. And that's what I'm going to do 10 more gigs.
How do you make that leisurely?
You don't. I don't. It's a load of BS. Yeah. But I have to say that anyway. Because I don't do things like in a relaxed manner, I'm like in there. I'm all, all my energy goes into it. And it's not that I'm not going to sing again, but I'm not going to do a singing tour like that again.
Yes. Oh, good. That's a relief moving. Because when I heard last ever, I thought, no. When you've got so many new things, you always try. Why you're not going to stop?
And I never shut up, as you can tell. Is it obvious?
Of course. Talking about tours and tickets and dates is very timely, isn't it? This morning, because everybody's been trying to get Oasis tickets over the weekend.
Yeah, well, that'll all be over. So.
And dynamic pricing. This whole thing where you up the prices when the demand is there. When you look at the state of that kind of thing, what are your thoughts?
I don't really want to go into that.
OK.
I don't really discuss, because I don't really know all the details of why they're doing that. Everybody's out for a buck, you know what I mean? And thank God, we can, at this point, it's great that they're coming back. It's great that I can do an extra part of my tour, and yet I'm not going to stop working, but I'm doing it I did it my way. I'm doing it my way, and I'm going to have fun. So I just love what I do, and that's why I'm still doing it at 75. And the last tour was great. I'm sure those two boys will have a ball. So, yeah, if you haven't got your tickets yet, you better hurry up, because they are selling very well.
I bet you're not doing dynamic pricing.
No, I'm not. They're staying the price that they are, yeah.
The Gallaghers might be looking for support acts. Would you be up for that?
Do you know what? Actually, that's a really sweet thing. I will absolutely... Roger Daltrey said, why don't we do a tour together? And we may do. I would go out and join another band.
What? So you may do?
Oh, there's all sorts of things I may do.
Go on.
I actually, for doing the film with Diane Keaton last year, I won an award as Best Supporting Actress. Now, I laughed and I said, yeah, right. They said, no, seriously. I went, oh, my God, that's so exciting. So I want to do more films. I want to act more. I've got a documentary being made by a company that I have such admiration for.
About you? Yeah,
and it's a case of... I'm actually a very private person, I'm chatty, Kathy, and I'm hopefully relatable. But there's a lot of things that I wouldn't talk about in my life. And I think at this point, if you talk about them, it's not about kiss and tell. It's about being able to talk about the ups and the downs and being vulnerable, which I don't naturally like to be. I like to be strong.
And will that be in the documentary?
So this will be honest. It'll be honest about all the unbelievable things. I mean, you talked about doing Bond and doing Eurovision. There's so many moments in my career that goes into this tour. What I did with the tour and why I think it was so enjoyable for me, and so partly why the audiences were standing ovations every night, several during the night, is because of all the moments in my life. There's Bond, there's working with the Beatles, there's working with the Stones, there's marrying a Bee Gee, there's recording with David Bowie, there's having a #1 with Take That, there's doing a film with Sidney Poitier and getting a #1 in America. There's, then I forget. Then
The Masked Singer.
Oh, that was such a glitch in this long career that it's like, oh, yeah. But I do that with even the most important things in my career. I forget them, And that's why when people come out the shows, they go, wow, we'd forgotten. And also, I have a very close partnership with someone who says to me, people think they know Lulu, but they don't. Oh. So that's where the documentary and the book, which I'm working on right now, collaborating with a really great writer, is going to be just so that, you know, I don't know what do you want to do a book for? Just explain certain things that were, you looks like you had a very fabulous and glossy life, but there's been some hard times too. So all of it in the mix.
Promise us you'll come back when the book's out. We'll talk again. Brilliant.
Bye, baby.
Lovely to have you here.
Come to the show.
Thank you so much. November.
All right.
We'll see you there.